We're live. Guys, holy cow. We are 3 minutes late, and that's just a Facebook problem, not us. We were ready. And I have the one and only right here, Leanne Morgan, with us tonight. And by Guinea, she did it.
I'm on this, but I don't know if I'm on Facebook or not.
She has no idea if she's live on Facebook or not. So somebody go over to her Facebook, Leanne Morgan, and see if she's live.
It says up on my top thing, you are live, but I don't know if that's just on your live or my live. I don't know.
I don't know, but my college best friend is watching from Utah. So Billy, go over there and check and see if Leanne is on her page live with her tribe watching. So I think you are, because it's popping up here numbers, and Be Live you can't tell how many people are really on. So there's more than what it looks like are looking here. So anyway, it doesn't matter. We got the one.
Okay.
I don't have any wine because Leanne, I'm on the 10-day detox.
I knew that. I knew that because I follow everything you do, and I want to do the detox. And I bought it from Metagenics from your website, honey. And I'm so ashamed. Like you do it twice a year, right?
Or you do it in March and the fall.
All right, I bought it in the fall, and I have not done it yet. And I put it up by my shoes in my closet. So I'm planning on doing it when I get back from Fargo next week. Because when I'm traveling, I can't blend and do.
Okay, no, you can't do that. Don't do that when you're traveling. Don't make it any more stressful than it already is. I don't know if you're on your page or not, but it doesn't matter. We will transfer you over to your page. It's not a big deal. We are going to get started tonight. Guys, tell us where you're from. Tell us if you have any questions for her, let us know. But I'm going to tell you something. We just, spur of the moment last night, decided to do this. Literally. We accidentally booked ourselves for Easter Sunday to do this. Not paying any attention at all that April 4th was Sunday. And she's going to be in Fargo, North Dakota this weekend, and with her first big show, I guess.
In a while, yeah.
In a while. So tell us this, Leanne, because you're on here with my tribe tonight and your tribe, because you've got a bunch of people watching from your tribe over here. How in the world did you even get started in this career? What made you know? Did you want to do this your entire life?
Yes, I knew from the time I was 5, Dani.
5.
And I hope I don't bore people to death with this story, but I think it's a good story. Okay, so I was raised in a town of 500 people, Adams, Tennessee, in Robertson County, not far from where Dani lives.
Yes.
And and precious town and precious people, and my family are farmers on both sides, generations back, and they were darling and always like, oh, Leanne, you cut up, you nut. But my mama has got a wonderful sense of humor, Lucille, and she loves comedy like I do. And she raised me when I was little watching Saturday Night Live, and it was filthy. And my dad would get so mad, and he would go, Lucille, she doesn't need to be watching this with John Belushi. But Mama we watched it together, and and she would say to me, you could be in Hollywood. And I would go, and I believed her. Anyway, when I was 5, we have a little celebration in Adams on 4th of July, a picnic, barbecue. And for people who don't know where I'm from, there's the legend of the Bell Witch. So if you love a ghost story, there is a national, people, they put it on the front of USA Today about the Bell Witch. And it is fascinating. But anyway, that's where I'm from. And they would do a big thing about the Bell Witch, and they had a talent show. And I entered myself in the talent show, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember thinking, okay, this is a step for me to get to Hollywood. I swear I did. I was 5. I felt like God spoke to me and said, this is what you're supposed to do. And I knew it. I knew it like I know it today. Anyway, my sister was very shy and embarrassed and took me out of the. Went to the where you sign in and said she's not going to do it because she was so worried about me and did not want me to be embarrassed. And she took me out of the contest. And but it was like a defining moment in my life. I remember thinking, man, I could have beat whoever won. I thought, man, I could have beat them. And I was going to dance in the chair. I was 5. And I didn't really have a talent. I was going to I had a little record player that would shut and open. It would play when you shut it. And I had my little record player and I was going to dance to Sonny and Cher, Cherokee Nation. What's that song? Cherokee Tribe. No. Anyway, yeah. I had a whole thing that was probably very politically incorrect now. But anyway, but all of my life, I just knew I was going to do something. And I think because I was from a rural area where I didn't know anybody in show business, that it was hard for me to figure out how to do it, what to do. But I used to go to Goodlettsville to the mall. And that was where all the country music stars lived. So I would see Johnny Cash, Jean Carter Cash at Sherwin-Williams. I saw the Mandrell sisters buying bras at Dillard's. And I can tell you, Dani, that somehow I would see these famous people and I would think, man, I'm going to do what they're doing. I just knew it. And I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, so I end up going to the University of Tennessee. And really, because my parents told me it was either that or the Army. And I was like, oh, Lord, I can't make it in the Army. So I went to college. I had no intention on finishing, honey. I followed my high school boyfriend and I was going to marry him. And I thought I'm just here for a little while. And of course I nagged him and told him what to do. And he broke up with me. And so then I was stuck in college and I was getting there were several bad decisions, Dani, several, honey. Men you wouldn't wipe your feet on. Anyway, I end up with my husband and that I have my children by. And even through all of that, I remember thinking, I'm going to do comedy. I don't know when, but I know I want to be a mama more than anything. And I want to have babies. And so when he moved me, he bought a used mobile home business in Bean Station, Tennessee, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And he moved me up there. And I had my first baby, Charlie, who has got my first grandbaby, and I wanted to stay home and breastfeed him. And so I knew we needed money. And so I started selling jewelry. One of my friends in Nashville said, Leanne, I'm selling this jewelry, kind of like Tupperware. And she said, I think you'll be good at it. It'll give you a little money. You can get out and meet people. So I started selling jewelry and I booked so far in advance, like a year in advance, that the company noticed and asked me to start speaking at those major things. And people like women would get tickled. I'd be talking about breastfeeding and hemorrhoids and stuff like that instead of jewelry. And one woman peed on a couch. One woman peed on a couch, and her name is Carmen. And and this is crazy. I saw Carmen the other day and I go, oh my gosh, Carmen. She goes, Leanne, do you remember when I peed on that couch at your jewelry show? And I went, Carmen, yes. And I said, that was one of those moments where I thought, I got it. I know I can do this. She just peed on that couch. So
I'm going to pee on the chair.
Yeah, that was one of those defining moments. And I think we all have them, where you think, and I think that's God's voice, but it's a voice from within going, this is something. So anyway, I held on to that. And I went and I spoke at those major things. And women at those that sold jewelry would say to me, you need to be a stand-up comedian. And that gave me the confidence and I knew then, no more messing around. I'm going to try to make this happen. And that's when I got I got determined and I started working toward it.
I had no idea. That was your history. And you just had Charlie then. You just had one child.
Well, and in the middle of that, then I had Maggie because they're 2.5 years apart. And I remember breastfeeding Maggie at the Opryland Hotel on a toilet. And then handing her to my mama and then going and speaking at those jewelry things. So I had her. And then by the third baby, I couldn't schlep jewelry around anymore. I was exhausted. And by then I saved professionally, which that means getting paid with cafeteria food. I feel like I started professionally when she was a year old and she's 23. So probably about 22 years ago, I made the decision like I'm going to be a comedian, and I started getting booked and started trying to figure it out, trying to figure out the business, which there was no comedy club in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. There was nowhere to go. But there was a little man in Morristown, Tennessee, where my husband was raised, and he saw me somewhere do something, MC something for one of the guys in my Sunday school class, was in like the Rotary or something like that. And he said, you know, I think you're funny. I have bands come here, and I split the door with them. I make money off of beer and sandwiches, and I give them the door money. Would you want to come and do comedy? And I said, yes. And he goes, can you do an hour? And I was like, yes. And oh, Danny, I wake up at 3:00 in the morning, freaked out, thinking, does anybody have that on film? Because I'm sure it was horrible. I didn't have an act. I didn't have anything. I just told this man, yes, I can do an hour. And I did an hour the first time I was ever on stage. And I'm sure it sucked to high heaven, Danny. I'm sure it was terrible.
So
I'm
did
sure it
you
was terrible.
did you have an agent, or I mean, or were you doing this all yourself?
Oh no. Oh no, honey, nobody, you don't get an agent until, or a manager until you got something going on good that they want to be a part of. So no, I remember calling Brian Dorfman that owns Zanies in Nashville, who is now my concert promoter. I mean, Full Circle is going to do my Big Panty Tour, 100 dates. He owns part of Outback Concerts. He's been so good to me. But 20 years ago, I asked if I could come and open, you know, be the one to say, the drink specials are, and tonight, and, you know, turn your phone off. So I asked him if I could do that. And he gave me a chance. I drove down. I had 3 babies. My baby was probably 18 months old. I drove to Nashville, and I got on stage, and I opened, and for Billy Gardell, I was the opener, and there was a feature, and then Billy Gardell, who's on, what is it? Something in Molly, Mike and Molly and all that. And Brian, when I got off stage in the office, he goes, Leanne, I think you got it. I think you've got it. But he goes, I got to tell you, with 3 babies, there's no way you can do this. You can't go to clubs and get booked and leave these children. He said, Roseanne Barr raised her children in a station wagon in the parking lot, and it messed them up. Like he goes, I just don't think it's something. And I remember thinking, that makes me so mad, Brian, but he was right. I mean, I look back on it, and he was like, I could not have just taken off. I mean, I could have done it and not raised my own children, and I was not going to do that.
Right.
You know, they were the most important thing. I regret I didn't have 10 children, but I was a mama before anything. So I thought to myself, I remember thinking it when he said that to me, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to find another way. I'll just find another way. And you know what, Danny? I found another way, and God had his hand on me. And I mean, when I tell you the things that have happened to me in my career, it's just like God put people in my path that believed in me and helped me and knew that I was a mama and didn't, you know, and couldn't go the traditional route that comedians do.
Right. So you worked all along though, when those babies were little, you were just doing it a different route. And then you took off when? How many years ago was it that you really, and now the baby is how old now? 20 something?
She's 23.
She's 23. That's what I thought.
So yeah. So in the middle of all these years, like I had television deals with sitcoms with ABC and Nick at Night. I had the best writers in Hollywood, like something, even though it was hard, and there were times when I couldn't get arrested. Nobody cared. I couldn't get booked. And then right when I would think, well, maybe I shouldn't keep going, then I'd get a television deal with a major network. And even though those didn't make it, it was always like, I always knew, like, I'm in the game with like big players. I need to keep going. So like when my kids were in middle school, they didn't want me to talk about them. That was a very dry time.
Oh.
And I understood, you know, they were going through puberty and had girlfriends and boyfriends, and they didn't want me to talk about that. And then in high school, there was a lot of years there where, I mean, it was hard for me to get booked, but I always did a lot of private corporate or churches, like women's groups, or some way to keep my foot in it. And then I, and then here these children are grown, and my boy got married, and I thought, you know, he wants children. They're going to have a grandbaby. Maybe I should go to work at Target and put the bedding up in the back. I've always thought that would be a good job and be fun. And I really, Dani, thought about just letting it go. I mean, I'd had a wonderful run, and I thought it's been fun. I've made good money. I've met a lot of nifty people. I've met a lot of wonderful fans out there, and I've met famous people, and I traveled with Paula Deen and worked with her. I've been on Dr. Phil. I've done a lot of nifty things. But I thought, you know, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing anymore. And my manager called me and said, Leanne, there's this thing called Dry Bar Comedy. And he said, they want you to do a special. And he said, I doubt we'll ever hear anything from it. I've never heard of it. He goes, you'll be in Dubuque, Iowa, doing a show for the Chamber of Commerce, which is my good buddy. But I mean, you know, I was doing little, you know, things. Anyway, he goes, just stop by there and do it. So I did it. Dani, my spray tan looked so bad. I did not take it seriously. My spray tan looked terrible. I had like I love a spray tan. And there was like this had rubbed off my chest. It looked like I had some kind of like impetigo. I had my thyroid nodule. My thyroid nodule was poking out. I bought a choker at Ann Taylor Loft. It had gotten caught on my thyroid nodule and was like popped up on my neck. And I look back on that, I did not prepare for it. I had not worked that much. I thought it was terrible. Anyway, it got released, and Dry Bar, I'm sure your people that watch, you know, Dry Bar has exploded. And yes, my special did really well. And I had several clips go viral, but there was one about me talking about Maggie, my middle child, being hateful when she was 16. And that one resonated with people. And so that gave me a really good bump, and things were going great. And I was getting a lot of work, and that was fun and all that. But then my social media guys put out that clip of me going to Journey and Def Leppard with my husband.
Yes.
And that one went viral. And yes, that one changed everything. And that was...
When was this? How many years ago?
That wasn't that long ago. That was like before COVID, about a year before COVID. Wow. Yeah, like in 2000 and... What year is it? All right, it's 21. So 20. So like 2019, maybe?
Yes. I thought it hadn't been that long ago because, I mean, you've just blown up. Which and not overnight, is it? 20-something years going on.
Yeah, it's 20-something years, and I think people thought, oh, where'd she come from? She hasn't been doing it, but I have been doing it a long time, and I feel like I've put in a lot of time. It may not have been, I did comedy clubs, but not that many, raising children, but I've done enough horrible gigs, Dani. I've done enough. I feel like I've done my time, but yeah, people are like, where did she come from? But yeah, it felt like that. But I felt the energy of that, and it was magical. And there was something about, I think men enjoyed that clip about going to concerts and everybody looking bad. And I think we all have been to concerts where, you know, everybody's looking their age, and everybody's got a hernia and plantar fasciitis, and so
they're inflamed. Because that's my entire practice is based off of inflammation. And I've laughed about that. Everybody walking out inflamed, and, you know, it's 10 o'clock. What are we doing? What are we doing here? And the lead singer's got a thyroid problem because his hair's all stringy and it's all thin. And yeah, it was great. It was great.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. So before we start talking about menopause and hot flashes and sweaty and pissed and all that, I mean, how do you practice? Like, I don't know how comedians practice, you know, because I worked in a comedy club in New York City, but do you just write this? How do you do this? Do you write this stuff? Do you sit down at a desk like what I'm at? What do you do? How do you do this?
I wish I should. But no, I tell you what I've done.
What do you do?
Like something will come to me. Something will come to me, and my writer on my second sitcom, Matt Williams, who created Roseanne and Home Improvement, and has written every movie you've ever loved. He goes, Leanne, you got to look at those as gifts from God, and you got to write them down, or you'll forget them. And he's so right. There's no telling how much I never even wrote down. Thought, oh, I'll remember that. But I feel like a little message will come, and I'll think, oh my gosh, that's a good idea. And so I'll write it down. But I'm very unorganized, Dani. Very unorganized. And so it'll be like on the back of a checkbook. It'll be on the back of a Chick-fil-A receipt. And then I cram them in a
Goodwill donation. Yes.
Yeah. And if my husband saw it, I mean, he would get hives because everything is just in its place, and he's very anal retentive. And see, I've just been like, if I went through this house, I could find, there would probably be another hour of material stuffed in, an old backpack, because that's how I've not, I've just had to do it on the fly. When I was raising a bunch of kids, you know how it is. You're trying to survive and trying to cook something, get somebody to a practice and all that. Well, that's making a terrible excuse. I just am very unorganized, and I just take an idea, and it's usually, it's always something that's real, that's really happened to me. I don't just go, oh, look at cotton balls. I'll write a joke about cotton balls. I think about my babies playing t-ball and doing on the t-ball field, or, going to going to a Weight Watchers meeting, that kind of thing. I just, and I get that from my mama. My mama can find funny. Lord, everywhere we've ever been, we busted out laughing, and we have to go, shh, because we just find funny, just there's funny in everyday life.
Is your sister funny like you? Like, is she?
Yes, she's very funny. She doesn't think she is. And she says all the time, Leanne, you got the talent. And I go, but man, you are very funny. She is very quick-witted, but she doesn't think she is. But I think she's very funny. And growing up, we would get so tickled we could not get our breath. And I want her to go to you. I want her to come and you to check her whole business out. I really do, Dani.
Well, I will be honored to do it. In fact, that's a great segue into Sweaty and Pissed. And so Leanne, for those of you all that don't know, and most of you probably do know, she had a podcast with her nurse practitioner in East Tennessee, up in Knoxville. I guess that's where Karen is, right? I'm not sure where.
Yes, Knoxville.
How long did you all do the podcast? Okay, tell me how the podcast came about, because you have since stopped recording it. Is that correct?
Yes. Now she's doing a few episodes to transition into, so that people can follow her from ours, because we had a really successful podcast, but it just got my mom sick, and I go back and forth and help her, and with my touring and everything, it just got to be, I had to do something. I had to take something off my plate. So I hated to stop it, because I loved it, and I love doing it, and I love Karen, but she's going to transition into more of a medical podcast on her own. And I'm telling you, she's brilliant. Yes, and this is how that happened. So as a comedian, they're always saying, oh, you need a podcast. All the comedians have a podcast. And I thought, I don't want to just sit and talk about being in airports. And there's comedians who have brilliant, but I thought, what am I going to talk about? And this was so, okay. When I was about 45, I had been doing CrossFit. I was competing in CrossFit. I had won a competition. I felt like a bad mama jamma. All of a sudden, I felt so tired that I could not put one foot in front of the other. Like I would fall asleep during the day, couldn't sleep at night. All right, fast forward. Somebody tells me about Karen Nickel. I had a physician, I loved him, but I would say, I think something's wrong with my thyroid. My hair's falling out. I can't poop. I don't feel good. And he would go, well, maybe you're depressed. And I go, well, maybe, but I can't poop, and my hair's falling. And I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And I really, Dani, thought that something was bad wrong. I thought I had a melanoma in college, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I got cancer. That's how bad I felt. I was leaning over a counter at my children's orthodontist, and they said, we have heard about this woman that is a nurse practitioner, and she's saving people's lives. But I don't know if you can get into her. Isn't this crazy? My neighbor was a doctor that she practiced under. His wife said, "Oh, Leanne, I'll get you in with Karen." It was like I won the golden ticket, Willy Wonka, because she has 4,000 patients and cannot take new ones. So I went into her and she said, "Okay, all right, I'm going to check your blood work. She started asking me, like, how are you sleeping? What are you eating? What are you, she's in this Summit Medical that's here in Knoxville, but she practices more like, I guess, like an integrative
Right.
family functional. Yeah. So she would say, "What are you eating? Well, what, how much are you sleeping? Well, are you happy? Well, are you moving every day? What are you doing? Are you eating gluten?" And I'd say, "My feet are killing me." And she goes, "All right, I want you to spit into this thing, and we're going to send it off. You're going to pay for it out of your own pocket," which they normally don't let her do that kind of stuff. And I think she's very restricted on what she can do. But anyway, fast forward, she saved my life. She got me on thyroid medicine. She goes, "Your thyroid is just about gone." They were using an antiquated panel.
Yes.
And she said, "No, it's low. And Leanne, and we're going to try to get it up with supplements, but I needed to go on medication." And it took a while for her to get me straightened out. But she goes, "That plantar fasciitis in your feet, you've got a gluten thing." She goes, "Get off of gluten, come back and tell me in 3 months how you feel." And my plantar fasciitis went away. But she put me on adrenal. The first thing was I was in adrenal fatigue. And she put me on an adrenal fatigue supplement that I could just order online.
Yep.
It was some little man, Dr. somebody, Wilson or somebody. And I took all that. Anyway, I believed so much in her that I went to her, and my kids started going to her, my husband. And I said, "Karen, they want me to do a podcast. People they don't know what to do with their hormones. They don't know what to do with their thyroid. Women are begging. Nobody's listening." I go, "Why don't we do a podcast and you can tell people?" And so we started Sweaty and Pissed. My 21-year, she's now 23. I said, "What do you think we ought to name it?" She goes, "Why don't you name it Sweaty and Pissed? Because that's what you are." And I was like, "Well, okay." And it gets a big laugh. Everybody loves that name. And because I was having hot flashes so bad. Anyway, she is brilliant. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, if everybody could have a nurse practitioner, because they listen to you and they find out they're like sleuths. They're like that man on House. They try to figure out what in the world's going on. Right?
That's exactly right. Well, Lee right here said, "Sounds like how I got into CU." That's exactly what happened. And her TSH was like 100 and something whenever this one came in. And I mean, we are sleuths, and that's what we do. And, and Karen, the fact that she works for a big practice, like I work for myself. So I can do whatever I want. I can do a saliva test and I can do a stool test and things like that. But do you have Hashimoto's? Do you have Hashimoto's thyroid?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and your story is just like millions of women for sure out there who are begging for help from their provider. And I tell patients this every single day. If your provider is not listening to you, you told him, "My hair's falling out. I can't poop." And what do they say? "You're depressed." Here's how I was taught. Okay, if your provider's not listening to you, then fire them and find another provider, because I work for you. I work for you. I mean, I'm not your yes man, but my job is to listen to you and to dig and find out, like you said, what's going on. But I was taught in school, at a very good school, Vanderbilt, that you can treat women with only 3 pharmaceuticals their entire life: synthetic birth control, antidepressants, and synthetic hormones. Horse piss, right? Premarin, pregnant mare's urine. Yeah. That's what that stands for.
Yeah.
Pregnant mare's urine. And that's it. That's all you need. Depends on how old the woman is. And then you can treat them with that. And we don't need anything else, because if synthetic birth control doesn't work, then they're clearly crazy. So we'll put them on antidepressants. And if that doesn't work, we'll put them on synthetic birth control. And if that doesn't work, guess what? We just cut it all out. Just give it full hysterectomy. So you share some of the funniest stuff on stage about this season, and it's interesting because menopause, and I wish I'd have known this when I was going through menopause. Menopause is a right and a privilege and an honor that many women never get the opportunity to go through. They don't live long enough to enjoy the rite of passage that menopause is. And so I always have to tell women that. And then they look at me like, yeah, I know, Dani, it's a rite of passage. It's an honor to go through menopause. Well, it really, as they're burning up, taking their shirts off, right? They're just, woo, in the office. But it is. It's a privilege, an honor, and a rite of passage. And when you get to the other side, it's great, right? And if you get managed properly, which you have been. Are you on hormones?
I am on bioidentical.
Me too.
Estrogen cream and progesterone and testosterone.
You bet.
And I've got a compound pharmacy, and they love Karen, and they trust her. And what's frustrating is I've had even people in my family go, "Why are you taking these old hormones? They cause breast cancer." And I said, "I'm not taking horse urine. That's right. I'm taking bioidentical." And if you don't take care of your estrogen levels and all of that, then that can cause heart disease, right, Dani? I mean, if you don't manage some of these things.
You bet. Number one age for heart disease, right, are post-menopausal women. Well, what's gone on post-menopausal, after menopause? No estrogen, no hormones at all. Your hormones drop, your heart disease risk goes through the roof. If hormones caused breast cancer, then 20-year-olds, 23-year-olds whose estrogen is through the roof because their boobs are up to here, right? Their skin is up here, beautiful, then they would all be dying of breast cancer. It's not estrogen that creates breast cancer. Now, there are estrogen-dominant breast cancer, right? But our girls, I took my 20s, and I never did have boobs up to there, but double A's, they don't go up to there. They just stay right here. But 20, we take our 20s and our 30s for granted, for sure. When we got all that estrogen and our skin looked so good, right? And all of that. So Dr. Lindsay Berkson, she was on one Sunday night for me, and she's been on hormones for years.
I started watching her because of you. Okay.
But let me tell you, and she's been on bioidentical hormones. She had breast cancer and she had bladder cancer, both. And she's 72 years old, Leanne, 72.
And looks like a movie star.
She looks like a movie star. She looks younger than I do, and I'm 55. And she totally vindicated estrogen, and doctors just don't know. Doctors and nurses are down on things they're not up on. It's as simple as that. They poo-poo everything. And I'm so proud that you have Karen there. I mean, she's a real rock star, and you've just been a great advocate for women, and you've been a great advocate for functional medicine, because it's I wish that our kids would have been raised that way. I raised my kids on, now not horrible, but I mean, they weren't raised on, we went to Sonic and we went to Chick-fil-A when we did, and all of that. And I didn't know. Right?
I did too, girl. If somebody's about to start their period, I remember my son saying, "Should we be out at night at Sonic at 10 o'clock? It's a school night." And I said, "Charlie, your sisters are having their period, honey. We've got to be here." I mean, everybody needed a fudge sundae. But I raised it, you're right. And there's so many regrets I have. But let me tell you, Dani, now I've got this new baby. I've got my grandbaby. And I just think, I look at him and I think, oh my gosh, I can watch him learning. I can watch him studying things. He's only 3 months old. but looking at black and white images and doing, and I think, oh my gosh, when I was having babies, I was just trying to survive. Like their daddy was always gone working, and I was by myself, and I did what I had to do to get by. I mean, you just do.
You just do it, and you don't remember a lot of it. I don't remember a lot of it. Mine are 19 months apart, and I was so busy, and I don't remember a lot. They say that grandbabies are so great. If you knew what's that saying? If you knew how great they were, you'd have them first, for sure, before you had your kids, right? I mean, yeah, I can't imagine. So, okay. So growing up in the South, let's see, you grew up in the South because you were outside of Clarksville. Is that correct? Is Adams outside of Clarksville?
Right. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, before it's on the way to Clarksville from Nashville. It's right on the Kentucky-Tennessee border.
Okay, that's right. And, I think, number one, you're absolutely hilarious, but your accent is what makes you, it takes you to a whole nother level. I lived in New York City for 3 years with this accent, and never once. I bought a one-way plane ticket to New York City when I got out of college and lived in the Salvation Army on 13th Street. I called my mom July the 2nd, 1988, and I said, I'm here. I lied to them. I told them anyway. This was back in 1988 before cell phones, and they just let me fly to New York City with $500. That's all I had. And I moved in the Salvation Army, and she thought I had a job. Anyway, whatever, I lied. And I said, well, I'm on the 13th floor. I'm looking at the Empire State Building. I don't have any air conditioning, and I'm living with a girl from Spain, a girl from Japan, and a girl from France. I'm the only one who speaks English. And she just was something like, I'm coming to New York. And I said, you'll never find me. Click. And that was the end of that. But I worked there for 3 years and never lost my accent. And there's something about a Southern accent. Do people take, because there's not a lot of Southern comedians out there.
Well, there's a few. I think a lot of people when the dry bar thing came out, they go, that's not real. And it would hurt my feelings. And I would think, oh, people said horrible things, but mostly good things. But yeah, there were people that said that's not real. And then sweet people from like Arkansas would fight for me and say, yes, it is real. And you kiss my, but this is how we talk. And I tell people, I go, do you think that I've got the energy to do this all the time? That if I could change that, if I could change it, I wouldn't. But this would take a lot of energy to talk like I do and do it and, do a impersonation. And this is how my mama talks. My sister sounds just like me. And what I've always heard is our little pocket in rural Middle Tennessee is an unusual, we sound like we're from somewhere else, but it's just this, rural farm talk. And I think a lot of people from Ireland maybe settled there, Scotland, English people, Wales. And so there's just this combination, and it's very unusual in this little pocket of Middle Tennessee. And it's very similar in Gallatin. And you know where Gallatin is, but yeah. So people always think, oh, she's from South Carolina or she's from Mississippi but anyway, there's this little pocket of Middle Tennessee, and we all sound like that. So that's what it is. And well, thank you, Dani. And I never, ever thought about changing it or trying to work on it. Lord, I knows I've got a lot of flaws, but I always was secure in myself and where I came from. And I just always thought, well, this is who I am. I think it's important to be authentic of who you are. I think people can see through that. Anyway, I just have always been, this is who I am, and take it or leave it. And it's worked out for me. It's worked out. Now, I know there's times when probably in Hollywood, people were like, no, she's too Southern or whatever. But you know what? It all works out in the wash.
You bet.
What's supposed to happen is supposed to happen.
You bet it does. I agree. Somebody told me once that every time I opened my mouth, my IQ went down. As a Southerner, that they think we have a lower IQ, which that's great. I'm glad they do, because look at us, right? Yeah, that's fine. And I think maybe even President Clinton said something like that at one point, and heck, he was the president, and because of our accent. But anyway, guys, they love you. I don't want to but tell us about your tour. Tell us what's going on and how they can, I think I even typed it up here, how they can get in touch, how they can find out about the tour, where you're coming, all the things. Let me see. I've got it right here. Make sure that's right. There we go. LeanneMorgan.com, right?
Yes, you can go to LeanneMorgan.com. And there's a big tour before the main stupid COVID came, which I remember watching you on an airplane. You went to some conference and you had a big mask on, and I thought, oh, S-H-I-T. Dani's got on a mask with a thing, and I thought, oh, crap. And this was before anybody ever even knew what was happening, Dani. And I remember thinking, oh no, what? And then I was traveling all over the United States, and they were trying to figure out where I could sell tickets, and I was selling out, and I was on fire, and I was like, woo. And then, I was in a rental car hearing about this thing out of Wuhan, and I thought, oh no. And I would say to my husband, I think something's happening. He'd go, oh, good Lord, then let's have, and then here we are. So anyway, right before COVID, I was supposed to, they had already announced like 17 dates for the Big Panty Tour. So my 100-city tour is called the Big Panty Tour. And people go, why do you call it that? I like a big panty, Dani. I like a big
panty, Dani.
I do. And I find myself talking about my panties. I don't know why. But anyway, I feel like that's kind of like, hey, girls or guys, whoever, come to the Big Panty Tour and wear your comfortable underwear. Let's have a good time. So 17 dates went on sale, and they sold out. I think most of them sold out. I was so tickled, Dani. I was spending that money in my head. I thought, oh my gosh, I can finally get new toilets. When you raise 3 children and your husband's a saver and anal retentive, we put all these children through college. Nobody has any debt. Praise God. That was a blessing from heaven. But none of our toilets work. So I thought, oh, I'm going to get new toilets. Oh, yay. And I can finally get a new car. I've driven the same car for 11 years. All right. So the main stupid COVID hits. So all those dates have been moved like 4 times, Dani, and I could cry. And I hate it for people. They've held on to these tickets. God love them. They have held on to these tickets. So let me tell people, those tickets, any ticket you bought for any of my shows, they work for the new date. So you can find the new dates on my social media stuff, on my LeanneMorgan.com. And those are just a fraction of where I'm going to be. People say to me all the time, are you coming to Southern California? Are you coming to Connecticut? Are you wherever? All those are about to be announced. They'll be announced as we go. So I'll be going in 100 cities so far in the United States. So I'll be coming near people somewhere. And I'm so tickled. And Dani, you are so right about but I've got dates coming up, little dates in smaller venues coming up to help me just get ready for the big tour. So people can go to LeanneMorgan.com and see where I'm going to be. But I have the best fans in the world. And you know what I think, Dani? I think that nobody was speaking to people like me and you. I think that nobody speaks to our demographic, that just normal everyday women that are out here raising a family, having grandchildren, taking care of elderly parents, going to a Weight Watchers meeting, going to Loft and getting a pair of stretch breeches. Nobody's speaking to them. And I feel very lucky that I was able, that they found me and I found them. And I have had a ball. And let me tell you, during this COVID, as mean as it is, I've connected with people on my back porch. I started talking about, feeding my little mama some pureed Jell-O salads and casseroles, because that's all she could eat. And people sent me recipes, recipe books from all over the United States. They've sent my baby blankets and gifts. I mean, people have been so precious. And you're right, it's a community. When you call it that, I think, oh, Dani's right. It is a community. And then they talk to each other on my Facebook page like, hey girl, what are you fixing for Easter? Oh, well, have you ever had the mandarin orange Jell-O salad? And then she goes, oh my gosh, my grandmother used to make that. And then they share that recipe. And it is enough to make me bawl my eyes out. I mean, they're precious to me.
Yes.
And anyway, it's just been it's like after all these years, I'm 55 years old. It's just like God said, here you go, Leanne, here's a gift, my darling. And it has been a joy. Whatever happens after this, I have just felt so loved. And anyway, I don't mean to get gushy, but it is, and it's been so special, Dani, so special.
Well, you're in your season. You are in your element. You are in your season, and you are touching so many people. And when God's got his hand on something like that, I mean, Leanne, you don't have an option but to walk on water. And you are walking on water right now. You are speaking to, I mean, I made a note, you can't see it, but it says your life and your age are perfect for what you do, because nobody was speaking about these things, and nobody was talking to our age women. I think that's why I'm successful at what I do. I've said that for so many years, is because I went through perimenopause with my patients. I went through menopause with my patients, and nobody's speaking to them. And you are speaking right to our generation. And I think it was the best generation. I think it was fabulous. And no, your community, and Jesus had an amazing community, right, around him. And you have built a community that absolutely adore you, because I watch what your people say, and I watch how they show up. I watch what they did last night with my book. When you talked on Instagram, when we did our Instagram live, and they took my book #1 again last night because of you on new releases. That's your community, and you have built that. And you built that with babies on your hips, and being a mom, and chasing doo-doo balls out the grocery store, out your son's pants. I mean, all the things I've listened to. I have laughed so hard. And you built that, and these people relate to you. And I'm just telling you, there's nobody better. And I am honored to death. The first time that a patient said to me, I said, how'd you hear about us? Or who referred you? Leanne Morgan. What? Leanne Morgan? I mean, the first time I heard it, I said, how would she know to send you here? I mean, I was like so caught off guard, and I can't remember who it was, but anyway, you are in your element, and you have found your tribe, and I can't wait for the next 5 years and the next 5 years. And when you and I are 75 years old, doing this, can you imagine?
I know. I want to be able to get up off the floor and get on the floor easy, Dani. All right. And when we're 75. And also, I want to tell people when because Dani's been so successful and has a book out and all these wonderful things. And I admire her. I admire what she's doing. But I want people to know that all these wonderful things that are happening to me. Let me tell you, my house is filthy. It has been for years. I've never been a good housekeeper. I've got too big a size britches. I've eaten a lot of sugar and a lot of white flour, and I hate that, because if I could go back and tell 30 and 40-year-olds, eat as many blueberries and salmon like Madonna as you could, but I didn't. I was emotional. If their daddy said something hateful to me, I got in the closet. I ate a sleeve of chocolate chip Hoys instead of going and walking around the block. Anyway, I am so not perfect. And I am so not, like these Hollywood, like Chelsea Handler. I've worked with Chelsea Handler, and she's beautiful, and she does Pilates, and everything's perfect, and, white pillows and all that. I am normal, everyday people. And maybe that's why I have had this wonderful love from people, is that I am, I need to lose weight. I need to do better. I need to clean my house. I need to, my car needs vacuuming out, but it's just normal, everyday people.
That's it.
So I want people to know that, all these wonderful things have happened to me, and it is a blessing, but I feel like y'all do about everything that y'all are going through. I worry about my little mom and daddy. I feel guilty if I'm not there helping them. I feel guilty if I'm here with my family. I want to help with my grandbaby. I order too much on Amazon. I do all the same things.
I know. And that's what makes you so amazing, because you are just a regular person. And I love that. And I tell my friends all the time, if these people knew, and I don't have 1.3 million people following me like you, but if they knew how crazy I really am, like just in my office, I'm sitting, you see this little bit right here. If you could see what I'm looking at, it's the biggest mess. And you talk about unorganized, Goodwill donations, tickets to Aria. I mean, all kinds of mess over here. The same way, you're just real people. And we admit that.
You're attending to how many people and running a practice. I don't know how you do it. And you get out and exercise every day and you're cooking whole foods. I have often looked at you and thought, how in the world is she doing this?
Thank you. I'm just going to say thank you. I don't know. I have a lot of energy, just like you do, and thank goodness my thyroid. I tell you what, my thyroid works. One of the best lines that was ever said from a patient. He wasn't a patient yet, but when I was getting ready to open my practice and the phones were going crazy. Jackson was answering the phone and this patient calls. It was a man. He said, I want to see Dani as a new patient. I have a thyroid problem. And I was seeing patients at 6 a.m. in the morning, right? And Jackson said, and now it's 6:45, but still 6 a.m. He goes, I'll take whatever appointment you got. And Jackson, I'll never forget it. I was sitting here. The kid was 18 years old, answering the phones, running this business on a shoestring, a dime, or, whatever, no money. He said, 6 a.m. I have a 6 a.m. appointment on whatever, September the 28th. Dead silence because it was on speaker. The guy goes, well, clearly she doesn't have a thyroid disorder. And it was perfect. Best line ever. And I don't, but I do a lot. I'm busy like you. I've been a single mom for 18 years. I was on food stamps for 5 years, right? I had a medical card, which by the way, was the best insurance that I will ever have. I will never have insurance like TennCare ever again. It pays for everything, by the way. No wonder nobody wants to get off of it. But I mean, I've run like a mad woman for years, but so have you. And so, so we've got so many people showing you so much love over here. And oh, look here. Amy says, you both are salt to the earth, relatable and honest. You both lift up many, and I'm so grateful. Thank you. You know what? That's what it's all about. We put our big panties on one leg at a time, right? Yes. We drink wine. I don't know. It's day 9 of the, no, it's not. It's day 8 of the detox. I probably shouldn't cheat and drink wine tonight.
This is Scout and Cellar. This is Scout and Cellar because you told me to get Scout and Cellar. You told that, without all the junk in it. And I don't drink it often anymore because I'm trying not to do that. But every once in a while, I'll have a little of this Scout and Cellar.
I love Scout and Cellar. It's my favorite. But hey, are you coming to Nashville? Are you coming to, I didn't see Nashville on the list. I looked this morning.
Yeah, I am. That had been moved several times. So it has not been announced yet, but March 2022, I think it's March the 11th. It hasn't gone on sale yet. I'll be at the Ryman.
March the 11th. Okay.
And the Ryman is a big deal. That's a big deal to me, Dani. Now, I'll probably be at Zany's, and I'll let you know, but I'll be at Zany's probably, just doing one night here and there this summer maybe. And so just to, stay on stage. And I love that club. And they painted a mural of my face on the side of that club. And you know what? I hadn't even gone to see it yet because when I go to see my parents, I'm just tending to them, and they're about an hour from there. And I need to go and see that. But anyway, Zany's has been wonderful to me. So I'll be at Zany's sometime. We'll post that so your Nashville girls can come.
Okay. So what I was just thinking, I was having this brainstorm while you were saying that. Zany's or the Ryman. The Ryman would probably hold more people because that'll be 2022. We should do an integrative family medicine. We need to do a Wild and Well Leanne Morgan section. But Wild and Well, the book. And we need to get, if you guys would love that, and I can see it on my phone, if you guys would love that, we'll just do a big old Wild and Well. We'll just all sit in the same section and we'll go see Leanne Morgan at the Ryman in 2022. Yes, the hearts are flying up. That's what we need to do. That would be fabulous. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Okay.
they would, my darling.
Oh, the Ryman's my favorite. I mean, that's the mother church over there, right? And Brandy Carlisle played there last night, actually, and it was she sold 40,000 tickets online, 40,000, and then they had a limited amount inside last night at the Ryman. It was while we were doing Sunday night service, but oh yeah, everybody's okay. So we need to figure out whenever that is, when those tickets go on sale. We need to figure something out. We've got a gazillion people that would love to do that. And we'll just all show up and have a wild and well time with Leanne Morgan. Leanne, I appreciate you more than anything. And thank you for, guys, her tribe took our new book, which is coming out in November, not right now, #1 last night in thyroid new release sales after she announced it on Instagram. Because it was #1 for a bit, and then it dropped back down, and now literally went up like, yeah, it went to #1. So it has that thing on it again, and I thank you. That's how your tribe loves you so much. And this book is for us. It's for anyone, but it really is targeted to us who've not been listened to for years and years, who can't poop, whose thyroid, whose neck is getting bigger, whose hair's falling out, whose vagina has dried up, whose sex drive has dried up, right? And they just tell you to eat less and exercise more. This book is at 365 pages of common sense, practical medicine, just about that right there. And I think it's going to be great. I'm hoping that it really is, but you've been such a great supporter, and thank you for sharing your story tonight. I had no idea you started selling jewelry for.
Yeah. And I tell you, I think I've done a lot of been a guest on a lot of podcasts lately of women at our age thinking, how do I reinvent myself, and how do I, and they ask me, well, what do you think? What would you tell people? And I tell people, listen to your gut. And if you know you're supposed to be doing something, I feel like that's God telling you that. And don't be afraid. If you don't try, how will you never know? You got to try, get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try something new. And Dani, you would not believe the women that have come up to me and said, I've always wanted to be a comedian, and I just have been too scared. It's never too late. I just don't think it's ever too late. I don't.
If you are breathing, it's never too late. I was 49 years old when I opened the practice. I was 40 when I went to nursing school, 37 when I got divorced, or 38. Yeah, then went to nursing school. It's never too late. I wrote a book at 55. I would love to get my doctorate. I was started to, and then my mom got sick. And so, no, as long as you're breathing, it's never too late. And something I forgot to tell you, Lindsay Berkson, she belongs to a comedy. She's in a stand-up comedy group, and she does stand-up comedy in Texas. They have a community, a group, and a club or whatever. Yeah, she's in a stand-up comedian club. That's what she does.
God.
And
she's
don't
a
ballroom
that's good for brain health? Is that why she's doing it for brain health?
It's good for your brain health, and she also is a ballroom dancer, which is extremely good for your brain health. I have zero rhythm, but we've got to start ballroom dancing because it's one of the few things that we know helps with dementia and Alzheimer's is ballroom dancing, not regular dancing, not twerking, not square dancing. Ballroom dancing is what helps. Because it's specific. It's specific. There's no freestyle in ballroom dancing, right? You have to, and it really rewires those neural pathways in there. Yeah, it's fascinating. So it's never too late. It's never too late to start over and take a chance. What's the worst that happens? It doesn't work. Big shit and deal. Who cares? It doesn't work. There was only one disciple who walked on water, and that was Peter. Only one decided to get out of the boat. But look what happened. We're talking about him thousands of years later, right? He took a chance. So anyway, okay, it's been an hour. Leanne, I appreciate you guys. I tell you what, yes, here we go. Danny's always put her big big girl panties on and is fearless. I try to be, Jackie. I try to be. You know, she worked for me at Mum's the Word. I had a maternity store in Paducah for 11 years. I sold breast pumps and nipple cream for 11 years. And then I decided to go and go to nursing school. So I've always taken a chance. But girl, I appreciate you so much.
Honey, I appreciate you, Dani. I think you're wonderful, honey. I'm glad to be with you.
No, I'm glad to be with you, and I can't wait. We need to do something. When one of these days, when this book gets out and you're on tour somewhere, I'm going to have a book signing in a town that you're in, and it's going to be crazy. People are going to love it.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, girl. Appreciate you guys. Y'all show her some love here. Share this with all of your tribe. You people, share it on your Facebook, share it all over, and let's sell her out all over the country this year. I know. I'm excited.
All right,
I'll see you.
darling. All right, bye-bye.